Please patronize our sponsors who support the Guild and our mission to educate members and non-members to enjoy and enrich their woodworking skills and experiences. You Pick Hardwood Lumber and Beaver Industrial Supply.
Welcome everybody to the meeting. We've got just a few announcements. I'll probably jump around here for a little bit. To start off with, Grady. Grady has volunteered to fill our Director 4 spot. So I'd like to thank him for volunteering for that spot. Thank you, Grady. Again, a website. If you haven't yet, jump on the website, fill in your phone, your address. There's still a lot. I just went through and did a quick true up of the website. There's still a lot of information missing. I'm trying to put together a graphic piece to show where all of our members are at, and there's a lot of zip codes missing, so I can't tell where actually people are at. So water is over here in the back, over there behind Hal in the red thing again. Holiday partying is still in November. And they got all kinds of fun stuff that they're working on. And some really good games, it looks like, from our last board meeting. Somebody, there's been a couple people say that they had problem in the back of the room reading my announcements, so I'm making them bigger. How does that look back there? Thank you. Superstar Weekend, just remember, April, second weekend in April. Roland Johnson. And now I did change over my internet provider and my email sender. But still, if you have not got if you renew your membership and you still have not got your card within a week, send me an email and I'll send it back out. I still every once in a while will get one or two every other week where they have not got their cards yet. So if you don't get it, let me know. I'll send you another one out. I don't throw anything away. I have membership cards going back to 2023. Hats and aprons are still, we still have hats and aprons. Bob! We still have hats and aprons. All right. Coming up is the Fez the Bull of Trees again. Making the stuff for the Fez. We need to have that all turned in by next meeting, next month at the meeting. Next, we have Joe. You're going to talk about the mortiser.
We got a new mortise machine for the shop. So we've got the old one. We decided let's make it available to the members. So there is a sheet back there that you can start filling out as part of the silent auction, but we also understand people that haven't seen the mortise machine. So it will be at the shop all month. And then we will have that sheet back for next meeting to just kind of give people one last chance to fill it out. But you can fill it out while you're out there as well if you find yourself interested in that machine.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
New members. I know we got a couple of them. New members, you want to stand up, wait for a microphone to come to you, and tell us about yourself.
I am Drew Froderman. I'm been around St. Louis County for a few years and started looking at volunteering and getting out of the house. And came across Home Sweet Home, and then I saw the videos of the Woodworking Guild. So I'd like to maybe look into that a little bit more with you guys, and then just get starting on woodworking. I live in an apartment, so the shop options I think going to be something nice.
All right, thank you. Welcome.
My name is Bill Goldcamp. I'm retired. I live in the city.
All right, welcome. Now, if we can get all of the visitors that we have here tonight, if you could stand up. All right. I know we got more than that. Thanks for coming. Upcoming classes. That's this weekend. Part 1 of building a kitchen cabinet. That's from 9 to 4 all day. And we got fundamentals of woodworking. Not this week, but next week. And then the safety class is coming up on Thursday night, 10-2. And the second part of kitchen cabinets is on Broderick Crawford Day. 10-4. Teaching kitchen cabinets. Now we're up to community outreach. Bob, how many toys we get tonight?
We got 311 toys tonight.
All right.
And we have 150 going out.
Oh, good. So yeah, we need more people making toys, don't we?
We may.
All right. Okay, and then Home Sweet Home coming up. So far, grand total in the last 5 months is, because we had 2 more turned in tonight, 56. Yeah. And the grand total since 2002 is 454. Anything else you want to say, Tom?
Other than the table examples of the new table we're going to be building are in the center aisle. Take a look, and there'll be more information coming out in an email in the next couple weeks.
I don't. If people remember from last month, Home Sweet Home came back, said they need 3x3 tables. So that's why we're starting to go with that, because of the hurricane that hit St. Louis, the tornado that hit St. Louis.
Actually, these are 32 inch by 32.
32
There's
inch.
32 square.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Like I said, we'll have more information coming out in an email later in the month. We don't know if we're going to build kits for the base and then have a work day in the shop to put them together, or just how we're going to handle it just yet. So it'll come out soon. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Holiday toy program. I know Wayne's here tonight. Tomorrow day is a work day, right?
A lot of stuff's come out of the woodwork, work in progress, and so we're going to be up somewhere around 1,400 probably.
All right, good. Tour of Home Sweet Home is November 8th. Next up, Jack McKay. Come on up. He's going to talk about comfort birds.
No pressure with you here. For a new community outreach, every year I seem to have a time where I'm inactive. I can't do stuff. I've had a procedure and I can't do anything. So I remember that Tom McLaughlin did a comfort bird episode, and I thought, I can do that. It went over well with my family. They're easy. But one of my nieces was an oncology nurse, and she really liked it and thought it would be good. When I made my annual visit to my oncologist and that, I talked then the next week to the cancer support, whatever, with a comfort bird, and they were interested in getting them. So I would like to interest you all into carving some. The simple enough 2x2 by 4 inch piece of wood. Draw the pattern, bandsaw it out, start to round it around. So take a little bit off, get to that. And I've made a few of them. I've got walnut, I've got cherry. I've used some kind of junk wood when I do that. I've typically milk painted them sand them, make them smooth, and I finish them with shellac, wet sand them with mineral oil, polish them with just paste wax that I've cut with some mineral spirits, and they just have a super feel. And I've got 40 some odd blanks of some walnuts, some cherry, maybe some oak too, and like to see if you all would do them. I've got these sheets that have different patterns. It's got the website for Tom McLaughlin's episode of bird carving. A little blurb of what I did, but I'm not an expert. I just have made some. Basically, that's about it. Sure. Oh, yeah, family members can do it too. Anybody.
I mean, they can receive them.
Yes. Right. The I've have some family that just, well, all of my grandkids have them. They just feel comfortable with them. My sister needed it, and my niece liked it so much I had to send her a couple of them. But they really do. People seem to enjoy them. I'll stop now.
All right. Thank you.
The website is up for registration. Todd, did an email go out yet? Probably did it. Not yet. Yeah. We're going to send out a group email just to remind members. Yeah. But not a lot of members go out there very often. So anyways, you can get out there and you can register and identify how many you and your spouse. So that's one thing. The other thing is think about whether or not you're able to help volunteer. I'm really thinking the day of. We'll have some need for a table for recognition. I'll explain all these things to people, but there's a couple there. Setting up for food, just getting it put out and ready to go. Clean up, set up. So I'm thinking 10 people I'd like to have names for. So if you're interested, catch me whenever, or send me an email to Joe Turner at SLW, or Treasurer. That's easier. Treasurer at slwg.org. Okay.
Next up is Mary May. Come on up. Well, we'd like to thank you for coming, and we would present you with a smock.
Thank you. Oh, wonderful. Actually, I need one of those. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, everybody. Well, I think, so what do I have, about an hour and a half?
Yep.
Or,
Did you want this? Or are they going to click?
I'm not sure if I'm going to need to, because I need to, I'll just fast forward or whatever.
Okay.
Zoom forward. I think we're good. Thank you. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to dive right into a slideshow and sort of tell my story along the way. Sometimes the slides sort of, help me remember what's next. So, well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for allowing me to speak and to demonstrate. I have been carving now for 30 some years. I really don't even want to count official, but it's been a long time, and pretty much since I started, it's been a career. It's been a pretty exciting journey. But I wanted to start really talk about a little bit of my history. So I introduce a lot of these talks really of something that happened to me while I was, I'm the little girl on my daddy's lap there. I was 4 years old. And this is in the suburbs of Chicago. And my father had this dream of building a boat and going and living on this boat and traveling, going down the Mississippi into the Bahamas. Anyway, he's working in Chicago at the time, and basically had this dream, and he just happened to have 5 kids and a wife that had to go along with him. So we experienced a pretty incredible time of going down the Mississippi River, spending basically a year traveling around and living on this boat. And we did it again. Okay, then we went back home and actually lived on land for 7 years, and then ended up, my dad did it one more time, built a different boat, and that was when I remember it a little bit more. And again, then we went around the Bahamas and then up the Intercoastal Waterway and lived on it for a year. But that was crazy because there were 5 teenagers within 50 feet of each other for an entire year. So there's a lot of jumping overboard and swimming and freedom. But I guess I bring that up because I kind of look back at what sort of brings you to where, choices that you make in your life, the avenues that you go. And because I believe that my dad sort of lived his dream, really, lived it, and he didn't let anything, all the naysayers basically, he said, you know what, I'm just going to do it. He's a very tall, very silent Dutchman who didn't have to explain anything to his neighbors. He just did it. And it was really, really very refreshing. So all of my siblings are doing something quite unique. And I guess it's just more, don't be afraid of the dream, because why not? Go live on a boat if you want to. So, okay, and this is, that's me. I was 11 there, and that's my sister, Eileen. And so we were sort of being the island girls back then. And so I look back also on my younger years of, when you have that zucchini that way overgrows in your garden and it's just completely inedible. So I used to take a knife and I used to carve faces into these zucchinis. And what I do is actually carve like the neck down and realistic faces. And it would sort of do this because it was only holding on by the seed area. And I'd be walking around like this is bobblehead until it fell off. So yeah, I look back at things like that, and especially like Halloween with the pumpkins and all of that. That was really just an exciting time for me. Excuse me. And I do realize that I was a very strange child. And so really my first inspiration with carving was in Europe. I had an opportunity to study abroad and ended up doing the whole Eurail thing and traveling around, and just absolutely fell in love with the interiors of the castles and the churches, cathedrals. And this is particular, if you've ever been to St. Paul's Cathedral in London, absolutely amazing. A lot of the interior is carved by a man named Grinling Gibbons, and I'll talk a little bit later about that because I actually went on a tour to see all of his work in England. But he's a 17th century carver, absolutely stunning work. And so while I was actually over in England, I started to work in clay. And I had a teacher who was a really good teacher. And that's actually an image of my dad, and it was based off of a photograph. And I just absolutely was enamored with working in clay. I thought, I want to do this forever. This is wonderful. And then I ended up going back to Minneapolis, and huge University of Minnesota. I don't know how many thousands of people went there. But I got a really bad teacher. And I am so grateful for that really bad teacher because it basically turned me completely off of ceramics, and I ended up moving towards wood carving. So, it is actually amazing how you can have one teacher that just completely destroys any interest of something, which I was kind of grateful for. Okay, so after I had come back to the States, I basically picked up a very dull chisel, a really big mallet, and a lot of sandpaper and a big old rasp. And I picked up this piece of wood from just a junk pile, really, a scrap pile. And I think it's hickory. So if you've ever worked in hickory, yeah, exactly. It was hard. Excuse me. So that was my first attempt. And I discovered, after trying that, it took me 3 days to do that. After doing that, I discovered I desperately needed a teacher. And so I looked in the yellow pages, that big, thick book that's now Google, under woodcarving, and I found Artistic Woodcarving Studio, and I thought, ooh, that sounds good. So I called, and this man with a very broken English accent said, yes, come by the workshop. And I met Konstantinos Papadakis, a master carver from Greece. And I ended up studying with him for 3 years. And this is a Byzantine style of carving. And actually, I'm curious, as I was driving in here, we saw a church over there with sort of some spires. And does anybody know what that is? It looks kind of like a Greek Orthodox church. It's Orthodox? I'm just wondering what the inside is, because quite often you see the inside, and it's a lot of icons painted and a lot of this type of carving. Has anybody been inside it? I'm just curious. I just saw the spires of it. But yeah, he taught me how to do this, and very traditional, using the long-handled gouges, and how they've been doing this for many, many years. And so I studied with him for 3 years. Then I ended up going over to the City and Guilds College in London, and just really trying to learn as much as I could from really the masters, the master carvers. I was kind of wondering at the time whether I was born about 200 or 300 years too late for this style of carving, because everything that I looked at in Europe was, ancient. And I thought, well, no, it's just one of those things back then. So meeting a master carver and learning from him was really very, very good to do. Okay, so this is one of the projects that I did while I was sort of learning and just starting out. So I wanted to try to make motion, the image or the illusion of motion in wood. So flames or leaves or something, just that sort of feeling of motion. And that was what I really wanted to do when I first started. That's one of my very first carvings. And this is one of my very first commissions. That is out of butternut, and it is a scene of elephants. And I almost gave my neighbor a nervous breakdown, because at 2 or 3 in the morning, I was continuing. I was so into this thing. I'm like, whack, whack, whack. And we lived in this house with 4 apartments, and my neighbor comes knocking on the door and like, stop the pounding, I can't take it anymore. And I'm like, but I'm creating. You're stopping the creative flow. And she didn't quite understand it. We're still friends to this day, so I guess she forgave me. But yeah, that's actually an umbrella stand. Okay, so I was up in Minneapolis, and then I decided to move to Charleston, South Carolina, and ended up meeting a group of people from the Society of American Period Furniture Makers. Are you familiar with that? Has anybody heard that? It's a good group where basically they really learn and study all about the 18th century period furniture, American Chippendale, and typical carvings are like the ball and claw foot and that type of detail. This is one that I actually have in my house. Very rarely do you actually get that. But I ended up carving 2 of these, carving the details for 2 of these, and my friend, who's sadly passed away, built 2. So I got 1 and he got 1. So bonus. I'm not sure which one of us got the better deal, but I kind of, it's the only way you can actually have something that's actually carved, because otherwise this all goes off. This is some details of that highboy. And so that's a lot of what the Society of American Period Furniture, they do a lot of that type of thing, the Philadelphia details. So I ended up, a lot of people that are in that group do a lot of sort of square things, and then I throw in this curve. I'm like, just sort of, come on, break out of yourself. Carve a cabriolet with a curve on it, and, So that was I think that was my role in that group, was to just like, okay, move away from the square. So I did a lot of teaching in that group too. And this is actually a Goddard Townsend chest of drawers. This is another one of those 18th century. One of those original ones sold for, I think, $8 million. There's only like 5 of them left. I'm not really sure exactly about the history, but this one, that was actually built by a friend, Greg Gunther, in Savannah, Georgia, and I carved the shells. And one of those, and I want to say there's only half a dozen also left of the originals. One recently sold at auction for $11 million. Not one of mine, unfortunately. I wish. I wish that the replica would sell for even like a fraction of that. Okay, the Celtic and Byzantine crosses. I do a lot of things for churches. You'd think that there would be a lot of that, where just the interior decorations of that. Charleston rice beds, real popular in Charleston, of course. I was living in Charleston for a while. And I probably carved about a dozen of those, just different designs. Very, very shallow relief, but real highly detailed. And then, so quite often, I laugh at the pictures because I never actually have anything complete, because I don't see it complete. If somebody wants to, like this was for one of the members of that group, I was saying, he was building this chair and wanted to hire me to do the carving on it. And so that's all I had. I sent it all to him like that, and I haven't even seen a picture of the finished one. But so I take these pieces, they give me the legs, the cabriole legs, the back splat of the chair, and I carve the details in them and then ship it back. So I very rarely get to see the actual finished piece. Queen Anne Highboy, that's another one that is real common in that era of the 7th or 18th century reproductions. Green Man, for a while, that was a really big thing. A lot of people wanted that sort of. The one below is interesting. It's almost like a lion's face, sort of a gargoyle type thing. The one up on the upper right is a little bit more friendly, a little realistic. But what's nice about doing green men is you don't have to be really precise with faces, because it's a green man. So if it doesn't exactly look like a human, it's okay. A lot of flexibility there. This is a Gothic pulpit, and that's in white oak. And that is for a church in Greenville, South Carolina. And yeah, that was probably 10 years ago that I carved that. And, oh, okay, you got my cat photos stuck in there. This is BB, he was playing Scrabble up there. And then we got another one here, because we're kind of crazy cat people. And that's Eddie. Both of those sadly have passed on, so, but we still have several cats, so we're still crazy cat people. Okay, so a little for the architectural carvings. Has anybody been to the Shakespeare's Globe Theatre in London? I had the honor of helping to carve both of the stage capitals, that one and that one, it was recently, it was 20 years ago, they found the original plans of the original Shakespeare's theater, and they ended up rebuilding it, timber frame and everything, right on the Thames in London, and it's there now. So if you ever have an opportunity, if you're in London, it's great to go there, and you can get the authentic feel of a real Shakespeare play, where you can stand in front there, or you can sit on the bleachers. I wouldn't, actually, I have to say, not so authentic, because there was like a There was a motorcycle that was on there. I'm like, I think they modernized it a little bit. they stretched the whole original Shakespeare's. But I guess occasionally they actually do the authentic Shakespeare. Okay, this is restoration of a king's face of a bracket. He's actually, the face itself is about that big, and it's so if you look at this is the original, and that you can see kind of the cracks on his face. It's about 100 years old, and it was just being very weathered and cracking and opening up. So I did a brand new one for that one. Federal style fireplace. That is a lot of those fans, a lot of the shell, or I guess sunburst design. But that's actually my shop down in Charleston. I'm currently in the process of moving out of there and actually relocating to Missouri. But that is my old shop, all my tools on the walls, and that's only about 1/10 of the tools that I have. I'm obsessed with tools. Okay, and this is a piece that I did a restoration for a house in Charleston, South Carolina. And we restored it based on, so you see the picture on the left, we basically had to rebuild it based on a series of just taking layer after layer after layer of paint off to find if there was any kind of residue of glue or anything like that. And they were actually able to locate this scroll shape. And I actually have books up here on that, the process of building that, and you can see that. Speaking of that, just before I forget, I've got a bunch of flyers over here on basically sort of beginner carving techniques and also sharpening, and I'm going to be going over that later, but I know I'm going to forget to mention that. But I brought a bunch of handouts and printouts of that. And feel free to look on the table here also. I always forget things, I know I do. All right, and this is how I met my husband. My husband, Stephen, over there. So he tends to elaborate more. He's much better storyteller than I am. But the story behind this, it was a walnut fireplace, and just a little bit about the actual process. This was actually routed down. This was not applied. The background is routed down about 1/2 inch. It's massive. I didn't do that part, but I ended up carving this, and I had already delivered it to my client, and it was sitting in there, and my husband was also looking for a particular kind of wood that only he had, so he was wandering around and looked at it and said, "Oh, who carved that? I want to marry her." And, right? Mine's a little condensed, like I said. It's a little short. What's that?
That was the proposal?
That was a proposal. Called me up and said, "Will you marry me?" A little bit stretched out. We actually got married 6 months later, so it was a pretty quick one. He might share more later, but this is that shell niche that sort of goes into the cabinet, like the one on the left side, is a very popular historical design. And the reason I show this, okay, we're all woodworkers, right? This is a fascinating thing. If you think about looking at it face on, it is a half round face on, but as it goes into the wall, it's an ellipse. Okay, so that'll really mess with your head when you're trying to create the blank. And so, if you look here, this is the half round, right? But this is the ellipse. So, what we did, basically had grid paper, drew the perfect ellipse, right, on that grid paper, and we managed to basically every square on the grid was 1 inch. Perfect, okay? Each of those blocks was 2 inches. So we were able to measure it out and basically figure out what the shape of each of these half round circles was based on that grid. And once you get that right, you glue it together. And what was fascinating is when you take these corners off and go and grind, basically you take a grinder and grind it right down to the inside, right to the glue line, or right to that glue corner, it makes this perfect inside curve of that. Does that make sense? It's yeah. And that was my husband basically figured all that out. See, we do a lot of collaborative work where I do a lot of the carving, but he does a lot of the behind the scenes brain work and trying to figure out all the problems. I said, so I've got a problem for you to solve. Come over here. So that was a real fun challenge of trying to figure out. And then when you have got like 4 of those, then they all have to match too. But it was just, I love challenges like that. All right, and then this is very typical for Charleston, South Carolina, and that's actually made in half, so it's already an existing column, so you just attach it and it fits around the actual column. And this is something that also Stephen and I have collaborated on. I carved basically a quarter of one of these very large capitals. And then knowing that basically in today's world of wanting it yesterday, and also just the time and the cost of actually carving all of these, what we did was I made a quarter of one. I carved a quarter of one, and then we made a rubber mold. And this again, Stephen was involved in this. That is a rubber mold. I don't know, maybe you need to add to this. But basically, we made a rotary mold. He made a rotary mold. And it was fully enclosed. You pour this very fast curing plastic into the mold, and you plug it up. And then you take that, see that orange thing? That's a bungee cord. And then basically he took this pipe and started spinning like that, taking it down like that. And then the pivot was from a deep sea fishing seat? The chair that swiveled. Okay, so talk about ingenious. And so basically you spend about 5 minutes doing this and waiting for that resin to cure. And then you do 4 more coats of that. Oh, it's a lot of great exercise. And then you end up with these hollow resin quarter columns. And we did, I don't know, I forgot how many, 20 of those? Yeah, 78 pieces altogether. It was but the thing is, sometimes you just have to use the technology that's out there. It was painted white. And I mean, I would have loved to be able to do those all fully carved, but it worked, and it was an exciting downtown, one of these big downtown projects. That's actually the installation of it down there, and that was an interesting process in itself. You're like 5 stories up in downtown. We usually say whatever comes through the door, just say, yeah, we'll figure it out. This is actually a project, and it's right here. I brought it with me. This is a project I'm currently working on, and it is really exciting. And so I was mentioning earlier Grinling Gibbons, the 17th century carver that carved the interior of St. Paul's Cathedral. My customer is wanting basically a style like that for her fireplace. And this is, so that's the center basket, and then it goes along this way, and I'm in the process of working on the left side So really, really excited about this. The basket itself is about 3 inches thick, and there are a lot of layering happening with this. A lot of layers, a lot of, lot of undercut. I mean, turn it over and it's almost fully hollow. But yeah, really, really exciting to be working on this. You know when you have that job that just like pushes you to the next level of just excitement and get lost in it for days and days. I think, hold on a second. This is, yeah. So that's actually a video of it. There's a little bird too. So the basket is layered. The secret of that, the basket is layered where the basket itself is a separate piece, and the actual flowers inside the basket are, I'm giving all the secrets away. And, oops, hold on. This is kind of fun. This is starting the left side. I'm really fast. And so that's probably about 15 hours of carving condensed down to about 30 seconds. But you can kind of see how it progressed. There wasn't a huge amount of planning. It was basically drew an approximate shape of where the leaves and flowers and everything were going, and then you just start excavating. So it's exciting stuff. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, faces. This is just a challenge that I enjoy. Occasionally, I get to carve faces. It's not my area where I'm comfortable with, but I do enjoy a good challenge. And it's great if you carve faces. It's a lot easier to carve their eyes closed. You know, that serene look. Just carve the eyes closed. And this is kind of interesting. This is something I made about 6 months before I met my husband, and I think it kind of looks like him. But you know, back then you actually have the hair now that matches this. So before you had the very conservative short hair. Now, see, you're growing into this. This is a carving I did while during COVID lockdowns. I had a marble statue of. And she had broken her nose. This was actually a customer asked me to fix the marble statue. I didn't carve her. But she had broken her nose, so I fixed that. And then while I had her, I'm like, she is absolutely gorgeous. Just this lovely, I don't know, Italian marble. And so I asked my client if I could keep her for a couple months and actually duplicate her. So when you have something that you can copy, when you have something right in front of you that you can measure and have it directly copying, it's a lot easier. So I spent about 2 months carving her based on her. So there's some slight differences, but it was a lot of fun because basically I committed to an hour a day live stream and just carve, and I refused to do it away from the live streams. I tried to do it continually where I would do the entire live stream. It is now on YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel, 18 episodes. She's about that big. Yeah, I'd say, yeah, about that big. But she's, it's kind of smaller than life size. Her face is probably like 3/4 life size, I guess. Basswood. Yeah, and it's interesting. There's a really weird, almost like you can see that line going straight up. I basically just grabbed whatever wood I had there, and there was obviously some, I don't know if it was the edge, what do you call it, the soft wood, yeah, the sapwood, yeah. But it didn't. So, but it worked. Yeah, basswood is what I did that one. Okay, and I also do a stone. This is something I carved I don't do a lot of stone, but this is something I carved a long time ago. This is an 8-foot tall limestone dolphin. There are 2 dolphins jumping out of a bunch of waves, and it's probably spent about a year in my backyard carving that. And again, remember I was talking about sort of wanting that movement and wanting to be able to show movement. That is really what I was trying to do there, of this scroll and what of the waves there. And what was fascinating, and it just sort of blew me away when I saw it for the first time, was on the lower side, you see the water actually going towards it. All of a sudden, once the water hit it, the waves started moving. Yeah, I almost took my breath away because I wasn't expecting it. After you work for it for a year, and it's like, and that's up in the left. That's the moving day. That was a nerve-wracking day. That's Stephen in the driver's seat, moving that. Again, figuring out how to move. How many tons? How many tons was that? Probably. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, I mentioned Grinling Gibbons a couple times. This is back in 2021, I think. So postponed during COVID. And then finally, I took 14 people. My husband and I, we hosted this trip and spent 10 days and did nothing but look at this man's work. Hampton Court, Windsor Castle. If you ever have an opportunity, talk to me. I'll give you a list of all the locations where Grinling Gibbons had his carving. And so we got to go sideways and look at the layering process. So you can see there, that's actually, well, you can kind of see it right there. There's a joint line right there. So creating the depth. That's why I learned a lot with that about doing the basket and everything of doing that. Okay, so then I started teaching probably about 20 years ago, teaching in person and also online. And this is my online carving school. It's going on its 13th year, and I basically add a new video right now about every 2 weeks. I'm doing live streams right now, but I'm adding them as a lesson. So yeah, when you think about that, I think there's about 330 different video lessons, and that's a lot of what I do is adding things to that. Right now, there's a 7-day free trial membership if you're interested in just seeing what it's about. You don't even have to give me your credit card. I hate those ones where you do that. And so that's a big part of my world, and this is a really big part of my recent world. New school at Lake of the Ozarks. We have resettled from Charleston to Lake of the Ozarks. And a lot of people are looking at us like we have 2 heads, because why would you move to Missouri? Everybody wants to move to Charleston. Like, no. It's getting busy, very busy there, so we love it. We're living on the west side in Laurie and Gravois Mills area. It's a beautiful area, and that's my new school overlooking the lake. And it's really exciting. And yeah, I've got actually quite a few classes scheduled all the way through next July, and I've got flyers also on this. But what's nice about this, I've been teaching elsewhere around the U.S. I actually got to go to Australia this year to teach, so that was exciting. But I've done a lot of that, and now I'm just sort of wanting to slow things down a little bit and stay more at home, and so that's what started here. I don't really make a lot of plans. It's like, oh, okay. We ended up, this is how the evolution of the school happened. We were at the Grizzly tent sale in Springfield 2 years ago. Yeah. Hey, that's a nice bench. Oh, there's another nice bench. Oh, there's another nice bench. Pretty soon, by the time we left, we bought 5 benches. And we're like, well, why are we doing this? Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll open up a school one day. So that's kind of how that started. And then I started saying, okay, maybe I should probably start looking for a place, a location. And then my sister has a restaurant on the lake, and she also had a building next to the restaurant. And this building had this lovely view, and it's got one main room, and I've got those 5 workbenches sitting in there. And that's how it happened. So planning, anyway, I have a school now. So, but all the information is actually on my online school website. It's just marymycarving.com. And the class schedule is there. So please join. It's only 3 hours away. And there's Airbnbs all over the place too.
Mary,
Yes?
what level of experience in carving do you have to have for the class?
Most of these are beginners, but what I typically do is it's really a small class, anywhere from 4 to 8 students. So since it's a small enough class, I kind of just, it can all be flexible. But typically they're very structured, very structured step-by-step process of, walking you through the basics, walking you through, the next step, and it sort of builds. And, but because they're small, I pretty much, if you have experience and you want to kind of work on a project that you're working on, that will work also. It's really, so like, for instance, carving the acanthus leaf, that's a book that I wrote, and I'll get that in a second, but that's carving the acanthus leaf. And that is all about that very ornate traditional leaf, but it starts out with the very basics of, this is a chisel. And then by the end of the 5 days, you're carving these really fancy leaves. So yeah, it's you don't even realize that you're progressing through the week. It's just sort of this, almost like total immersion, when you're, so it's a lot of fun. So it varies with skill. The one in May, the open carving class, pretty much come with whatever you have. But what I do is I teach the long-handled gouges, how to use the long-handled gouges. I have got smaller knives, but typically, I don't feel comfortable teaching that way because the way that I taught, or the way that I learned, was using these handles. And every time I grab one of those knives, I always cut myself anyway, so. But if you have carved before, this carving group over here, right? Hello. So you're welcome to join and bring the tools you have. I'm just not sure how I'd be able to teach you with using the knives. You probably know what you're doing anyway. But it's really introducing more of a different technique of basically clamping down the wood and using standing at workbenches and holding the tools like that. So again, that's my first book. I say my first, and my husband just cringes because he's like, oh no, there's another one there. Yeah, it took longer than 2 years, I think. Very many late nights. 350 pages of, believe it or not, all of those step-by-step process of how to carve all of those leaves. And that's actually a real leaf down there. There is such a thing as an acanthus plant, and everything that traditional leaf was based off of that. So yeah, so I, by the way, I'm just curious, how many have never heard the word acanthus leaf? Yeah, usually, like I said, I was like, I picked one of the most obscure topics out there possible. I'm waiting for it to go on the New York Times bestseller, wait till. That means I'm supposed to express it and teach people about this mysterious leaf. But you can see, you probably have seen it, but never really identified it because, you see the Corinthian capitals and that very ornate detail. It's everywhere in tapestry and, in fact, I'm looking around here going, there's got to be something here that's an acanthus leaf. Okay, and now that was a couple years ago. That's he was 2 there, my grandson, and this is my new excuse to carve. So that's a little Christmas present I made for him a couple years ago. And then this is sort of a brag thing on my husband, include him in here. Back before I met him, he and his dad built a tall ship, a 100-foot tall ship when he was up in Canada. And yeah, so he knows what he's doing. But amazing. I would have loved to have been involved in that. But absolutely beautiful. And so this is something that I suggest if you are, soap carving. If you have anybody who's interested in carving that's young and you're a little terrified to give them a sharp knife, give them a bar of ivory soap or any kind of soap really, and have them carve a turtle. And it's actually something my 5.5-year-old grandson now, I'm going to get him going on that. So haven't done that yet. But anyway, well, that's it for the slideshow. I have no idea what we're doing for time. So when does this go till 11:30? Or sorry, 11:30. Yeah, yeah. You guys aren't going home till 11:30, right? So we're going till 8:30. Is that okay? All right. Tell you what, I am going to do some demonstrations on a couple things. Now, I wasn't quite sure how the setup would be, so I don't have any clamps, but I did stick this down with double-sided tape. So we're going to wing it. And usually my the height of my workbench is about like that, right? It's just so you don't have to lean over. So this is going to be interesting. I'm going to be like, brace myself. Yes. All right, so I'm just going to go over a bit about just the basics of carving, okay? Just some of the equipment, and so talk about maybe, okay, these gloves, all right? These are fingerless biking gloves, exercise gloves. They can be rowing gloves, weightlifting, but they do not protect you from stabs. They don't protect you from slices. They don't protect you from the actual blade of the tool. But what they do is they protect this side of your hand, because the way that I carve is quite often, well, most of the time I use both hands. And so I'm wondering, would it be possible to do like a close-up down, like right there? I won't move very much. It's just basically like right there. Oh, look at that. Fancy. So this actually, if you look at my hand, actually, there's this bump right there. And that's really typically because that is quite often used as a pivot point on the base of the wood. Ah, there we go. Okay, let me close that. You don't need that. Excellent. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, so when I carve, I do a lot of twisting like that, all right? Hold it with both hands and do twisting like that, all right? So what happens is, especially when you're carving in something like oak or walnut or something like that, you get some sharp edges of the wood, which actually cut my hand more than any tool. All right, so the way that I actually carve, I hold it like this so that no body part is on this side of the blade. Okay, so this way, all right, not this way, and not this way. When I'm teaching, I really stress that safety. The only time that I end up actually cutting myself is packing up the tools in my tool roll or unpacking them. If they're like bumping, sitting like that, and you just bump it. But those are minor cuts. Nothing stabbed, no hospital, nothing like that. The only time I actually needed to go get stitches was when I was scraping glue off the back of one of my carvings. Anyway, one of those things where your brain is going, you might not want to do this, and then I cut myself. Yeah. So these, again, this is really more for padding of this. If you're concerned about actually cutting yourself, I actually had one student after the first day had a Band-Aid on every single finger. I have a picture of him holding it up. And so if you have a tendency to stab yourself with your chisels, they do have the Kevlar carving gloves. You guys probably have those, or the really thick plastic ones. I've seen those now, which seem to work really well. But again, these are not protecting you from the tool necessarily. And I wanted to show you something. This is something I discovered. You see these little fancy little hooks there? You don't want to cut those off because it's how to get them off. I learned that. And I was like, oh, let's get rid of these irritating little flaps. But no, they actually help you get them off. Anyway, just a little trivia. Okay, talk about the mallets. Now, quite often I end up using these little either brass or steel mallets. And a lot of times I use these for really heavy pounding. The only problem with that is metal against wood. You can really damage the end of the mallets. But even so, I still like those. There's the turned ones that are a little bit more bulky. The reason I like these is mostly because when I do this very light tapping, and you can do some really good controlled cuts by doing very light tapping like that. And by doing that, you actually wrap your hand around this, all right? And then rather than, if you have the really big turned ones, you pretty much have to hold on to them with this. And then you can still do that, but it's just a little bit more awkward. Now this is actually based on a stone carver's lettering mallet, that shape. So if people are going, and they're constantly using a mallet to work. And so the weight is about 15 ounces, 15, 16 ounces. Okay, anything larger than 1.5 pounds, is it 18 ounces to a pound? 16 ounces, sorry, so this is probably more like 13. Okay, so 16 ounces, anything larger than that or heavier than that, it can be quite a strain. It really depends on your muscles, your shoulder strength. But anything that really requires like real heft, then that can get real wearing on you if you're using this a lot. And I've found that anything lighter than 1 pound, you're actually doing more work than the mallet is. If you're having to force it to do the work, then you might as well get a heavier mallet and let it do its job. But basically, ideally you want to let it fall. All right. So if you imagine stone carving, you're going to want to do that, let it fall, and so you're really trying to use minimal muscle and just do this very rhythmic pounding. And so I kind of translate, or I use that method for both wood carving and stone carving. And what's fascinating, in a stone carving yard, when you have like 10 people doing stone carving, after a while, it has to get the same rhythm. Everybody just gets this, and it's really quite a beautiful sound, But if one goes off, then it's like, Excuse me. Okay. The wood that I generally start people off with, basswood, butternut, which is a little bit more difficult to find these days because the trees themselves have, I think there's like a fungus or something. Do we have butternut trees in Missouri? A few. Okay. Something, either fungus or insect. But what you find now with I wonder if I have any of those. No, I didn't bring any. Is already fallen trees. So if you can find butternut now, it's probably going to be the last ones you're going to be fine. So get it when you can. But they're very similar. Butternut has got a little bit more interesting grain to it. Basswood is kind of, it's kind of dull. I mean, this is basswood here. It's not the most exciting. You can't barely see the grain. but it's really good. It's really good for carving and getting started with it. And so there's another wood that I actually had an opportunity to use when I was in Australia, and it was called Jelliatong. Has anybody used that for carving? Have you guys used that? It's beautiful wood. Really just is. But it looks similar to basswood. But if you can find it, where do you find it here? Do they? Okay. I need to try to find some, because it really was very nice. And that fireplace mantle that I'm working on, that's not basswood, that's actually lime. Okay, so typically Grinling gibbons carved in lime, which is basically lime or linden, they're called. It's basically the European version of basswood, but it is amazingly strong. So it's, I think if I did that carving in just basswood, I don't think it would hold together near as well. You also want to consider the type of wood, the location of where you get your basswood. You don't want to get Tennessee or North Carolina or Georgia, or I don't even know if they have that basswood. Can you get it here? Is it good? Is it? So is it, yeah, northern Wisconsin, northern New York, anywhere where it's really, really hard winter. Yeah, I was wondering it because there's really not enough really cold here to make it a good. It gets very stringy, and this is northern Wisconsin, and it's just beautiful. But yeah, you start getting more into the southern, and it starts not the most attractive. So yeah, keep that in mind if you are shopping for basswood. A lot of times people don't even know where it comes from, but you can tell if you can really see some clear grain in it, usually that's southern basswood. So beyond those starter woods, I would go try mahogany, but now mahogany is sort of lumped into all sorts of, or too many different types of wood is lumped into mahogany. So that's always a little bit of a mystery of what you're going to get. Sometimes it's really hard, and sometimes it's like butter. Walnut is a little bit more consistent. Black walnut is a little bit more consistent and is really a beautiful wood to carve. I just did a carving in walnut. Let me grab this. What's that? Yeah, that's even better. But this is a carving. Actually, the last lesson I did for my school was this one. It's a kind of a Chinese lotus design, and that's black walnut. And it really is just lovely, gives some really crisp design, crisp edges. And so, yeah, that would be a good one if you wanted to sort of venture past the really soft woods like basswood and butternut. Okay, so talk about some of the workspace that you need for this type of carving. Typically, ideal height. So normally I stand when I carve. An ideal height of carving is basically about 1 inch or 2 below elbow. You want the actual workspace or work position. Because if it's too low like this, you're going to have a really sore neck after a while. You're like leaning over all the time. If it's too high, you're going to end up same thing. You're going to having to sort of lift it up that way. So actually I just, for my birthday this year, I bought myself a present. I was back at Grizzly again. That's a dangerous place for me. And I found a rising bench. It's great. Yeah, it's just this little push button, electric rising bench. And it can go up to probably about there. So if I'm ever doing some really micro stuff that I just can't see, have it up there. And it can go down probably another foot lower than this. And it's great. And so yeah, lots of flexibility there. So I have a regular workbench, and I've got 6x6 blocks underneath it. And so typically I just have it constantly raised to that height. If you were going to use your regular workbench height, so if you're woodworkers and you want to be able to plane things, you want to be able to do other things on the standard workbench height, what I would suggest then is getting one of those bench-on-bench carving benches. They've got one out there that you can actually purchase. It's a Sjoberg one, S-J-O-B-E-R-G workstation. Have you seen that one? It's a really nice one, good, solid, and you can carve things, quite large. And you can also make some. I think there's all sorts of plans out there of designs of how to carve or how to build your own. But it just helps to raise it up, and then you can just remove it off the table if you're done with that. When I first started, I only had a workbench for the first 3 years. I had a workbench that just a standard 2x6s, no vices, nothing like that. And so the way that I actually held the work was I had to, because I wanted to work on that bench and I wanted to be able to clamp it and then carve, right? So held solid. I ended up using newspaper and glue method, right? You basically take your carving. So let's say this is the carving blank, and this is a backer board. Should be a little bit bigger than the carving, but basically take glue, lay newspaper down, glue on the back of that, and you clamp it. And when you're finished with the carving, you just take a flat chisel and lift it, and the newspaper splits apart. Now, I used to use that all the time. It got really messy. That's how I ended up actually getting stitches, was scraping that glue and newspaper off the back. So you always end up having this stuff on the back of your carving. Then I discovered double-sided tape. Okay. Any golfers here? A couple. So you're familiar with the double-sided tape that is golf grip? Yeah, the grip tape. So you wrap it around the metal, and then I guess you replace your handles a lot or something. Yeah. So you want to be able to take it off, take the handle off. And so the trick with this is, and why it works really good for this, is the way to release the tape. Okay, so if you've got something really fragile, well, let's call this fragile because it actually broke. So if you have something really fragile, you take the double-sided tape and you tape it down, and then instead of taking a flat chisel and trying to pry it, lift it up, what you use is a solvent that works with the double-sided tape. You have to test it. Take a solvent and brush it around along the outer edges, and you can literally take this and just lift it off the backer board. Helps a lot with really, really delicate carvings. So that's helped a lot in. Oh, well, you know what? You have to. It's acetone with this, with the double-sided, the golf grip tape. Or sometimes denatured alcohol. You just have to test it ahead of time.
Does it run on the tape inside, and then is that all?
You want it to soak in, to actually reach in. So, another trick. See, I'm just throwing all the secrets out. So if you've got something really, really big and delicate but big, right? So, and you're finished with this carving and you don't want to brush all the solvent all over the place, right? And into the inside areas and whatever. By the time you actually got to the end, it would be dry on the other side. So before you actually apply it, drill a bunch of holes in the backer board, and then when you're finished, flip it over and pour in the solvent, and it will actually reach the carving saw. So that would be like year 5 apprentice information. Don't use, Yes, in fact, I just was working on that. I was practicing with, you have to have really good painter's tape for that though. Yes, so what he's talking about is basically you take painter's tape, tape it down to the backer board, put tape on the back of your carving, and then put a couple dots of CA glue, spray the activator on this one, and set it down. So if you use an activator on the CA glue, or you use really, really good fast acting, fast acting, and then you just hold it. With that, the activator, it will hold after 3 seconds. I mean, solid hold. Then what happens when you're finished with it, the actual tape itself comes off, and that's what releases it. I was going to mention, don't, well, if you know that you're not going to get back to your carving for a while, don't use carpet tape. I made that mistake. Yeah, I made that mistake by using, you go to Lowe's and you can find this turquoise colored double-sided carpet tape, or duct tape, really. It's double-sided duct tape is what it is. Really, really good. But have you ever tried taking up old carpet, antique, like 50-year-old carpet, and it's all crispy? Well, that's exactly what happens. You lose moisture from the tape, and I still have things to this day because I used that first. When I first discovered double-sided tape, I used that a lot, and I have things stuck to that backer board forever. I think the only way I could do it is basically take it through a bandsaw. I mean, I tried everything. I tried solvents. I tried throwing it in the microwave. Sorry? Maybe. I'm just shying away. The kind that I don't use anymore is a kind with the actual strings in it. So I don't know. That's it. I got scared away from that. So this stuff works pretty good. They've got some clear tape that is almost like Scotch tape. Any Turners in here? So you're probably familiar with that, I'm guessing, if you use the double-sided tape. But it's a little, for what I do, it's a little too thin, because what happens is this has got a little thickness. It's almost like masking tape. It's a little thickness so that if there's any variation on the surface of the backer board or the back of the carving, it'll kind of give a little bit. If it's too thin, it just won't hold real well. All right, any questions on that? Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the tools, all right? So the, let me see if I can do this. Okay, just want to be able to draw. Okay, so when you're shopping for tools, right, typical tools are German, Austrian, Swiss, English. Those are usually really good tools when you're talking about the long handle gouges. There is an American one which is, I always forget the name of this one. It's Flex Cut, and it's actually, just as the word says, it flexes a little, which is a little nerve-wracking when you're not expecting your tools to flex. None of these do that. So, but I've actually tried a few of them, and they hold a really good edge, so that's all positive. But they're a little odd shaped. But generally, if you are working with European tools, and they run anywhere, oh goodness, nowadays I haven't shopped for them for a while because I've got way too many tools. Probably between $40 and $55. Is that right? Anybody shopping? Oh, up more? Really? Okay. Yeah, I guess I haven't shopped for a while. So what, about between 50 and 70 per tool? More? For how much? Really large one? Man. Yeah. There's, yeah, you can spend some.
It's an inch and a half wide, and it's a number 3 chisel. It's a file.
Oh, okay, nice. Those are, yeah. You can do like what, chair seats or something? sounds like that. Okay. Big chunks of wood. That's it?
He leaves them that way.
But that's somehow satisfying, isn't it, when you just pound away at it? At the end of the day, you see this big pile of wood shavings. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you a little about, so if you are shopping for tools, talk about the way that they're identified. And so typically they have two numbers, all right? So that is a number 9, 10, and the first number is the sweep or curve. Second number is the width in millimeters. And so basically a straight line from there to there is 14 millimeters. Number 9 is a curve. All right, so let's just say here, this one is a 714. Number 7 curve, 14 millimeters. The F stands for fishtail, right? See how it plays out? And that is, I actually really, really prefer the fishtails. If you ever do buy a fishtail, there's no turning back because they really fit into the corners nicely and really clean up very well. And so what I want to start with, so basically that first number, which is the sweep, let me do it from this way, starts out with the number 1, which is a flat chisel, right? Flat carving chisel is a lot different than a bench chisel. The angle is a lot less. Usually the angle of the tools are between 22 and 23 degrees for that ideal angle. So there is a difference between the flat carving chisels and just the regular bench chisels. All right, then we got number 2, which is very, very slight curve to it. And those are good for backgrounding. If you're trying to level the background flat, really good, because if you try to do that with a flat chisel is going to dig at the corners, and the number 2 is just curved enough where you can just sweep across and the corners won't dig. Then we go number 3. Well, that's a little bit more curved. Anyway, you get the idea. 3 is one actually that I use a lot, and I use it bevel up, bevel down, and use it for completely different things, but I probably use that the most. And then we got number 4. Okay, it gets a little bit more, and then it goes all the way down, or all the way up to a number 10, which is basically a half round. Okay. And again, that's the first number, and then it's the width in millimeters, pretty much from there to there. Then we go on, and then it starts getting really wild. So the V chisels, which I use a lot for my carving, they've got, well, let me not skip over that. Number 11 is actually called a veiner. It's flat like that. Okay, number 11, and it's got flat sides and a curve. Number 12 is a V chisel, but a 60-degree angle V chisel. And then it goes on 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and I don't even know what those are, but they're all different angles, and I don't get anything except for the 60-degree angle. So anybody else know? 13, it gets down to 45 degrees, and different angle, yeah. So, but I think probably, I think I may have 1 or 2 tools that's a little tighter, so just to create some really sharp V cuts. But most of mine are 60-degree angles for a couple of reasons. First of all, if they get more open than that, they just don't really do what's needed to be done. I like to use them to get a lot of wood out. And if they start getting narrower like that, miserable to sharpen because you basically need to get a little slipstone and that doesn't ever fit in it. Okay, and so I wanted to really quickly show you kind of a ideal starter set if you are interested in getting a set. A good one to start with is a 6mm V chisel, number 3, 6, right? Number 3 curvature, nice small, almost flat, excuse me. Number 3, 14. Then a number 5, 6, number 5, 14, and then number 7, 6, and then number 7, 14. So very simply, 3s, 5s, and 7s on the 6mm and the 14mm. It's a good round sort of overall set to start with. There's a company in Canada, it's called Chipping Away, and they have a set sort of my ideal carving tools. The only thing that's not in there is the 5/6, but everything else is in their sets. But it's a good, the only thing beyond this, then I would get a really small one. So the smallest one are 6 millimeter wide, which is still, you know, it's substantial. So you might want to consider getting like a 3 millimeter, like a number 3 millimeter, just to get in those little areas that you can't reach. The other thing would be something very large, like you're talking about this big chunking, you know, a bunch of wood away. But that's, yeah, that's a really good starter set, though. Okay. Are we doing for time? All right. Okay. I'm going to go over sharpening real quickly. All right. I was going to sort of, well, let's put it this way. Would you rather see sharpening or a carving demo? Carving? Okay. We'll skip over the sharpening then. Anyway, I have a bunch of YouTube videos on sharpening, so watch that. So I wasn't very diamond stones and the little slip stones. These little slip stones and then the diamond stones. I use the 8000. I mean, if you want to, I can really quickly go over it, but I did want to sort of get over or start something, at least get through the process of getting started. All right, we're going to do something really, really quick. We're going to do a flower. How's that? There's a center flower, and it's going to be a really sad-looking flower because it's freehand. How's that for a random flower? And then when you look at that basket over there, like, are you the same person? How's that for... That's about as bad as it gets. It's freehand. That's bad. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to show you how to do this. So what I do, again, I start out with a V-chisel. That's not a V-chisel, sorry. A V-chisel. It's too far down. See, I can't see the tools. So I actually have this stuck down with double-sided tape because I forgot to bring clamps. And I'm hoping it's going to stay. So start out by outlining it with a V-chisel. Again, I always start with a V-chisel because it clears away the wood, and then when I start doing defining cuts, it kind of gives towards the V-cut, and it saves things from breaking. So I could go along here and make a straight down cut and define the edge, but it's going to end up really, if you think about it, a wedge coming down into the wood could end up sort of pushing, shifting, and damaging some really fragile parts. So V-chisel and outline it. I'm just going to use a mallet. Bear with me. And hopefully it'll stay. So do you see, doing that light mallet or light tapping, it actually helps control it and going around edges. But do you see what's also happening? I'm standing and doing this, and I'm basically doing a lot of moving and repositioning, and I am not liking the look of that pedal there. See, now I have to, my gouges, my chisels know a lot more. They redesign it as they go. So this, using a mallet like this is really helpful by, I'm sorry? On this, yes, yeah, there's a couple of them that split, but doing the kind of lighter tapping, it's a little bit more gentle, but if I ever just really wail away at it, it can be pretty damaging. Okay, so this is why I stand up to carve. I mean, I've moved in many, many directions just in this in a very small amount of carving. Okay, and then what I do is it's kind of a shortcut way of making something look like it's coming off the background. And I take this number 714, and I just go around and lower down the background. This is just a really quick way of showing or bringing the carving to life and to make it look like you don't have to lower the whole background down. Another thing you could do with this is cut it out on scroll saw or bandsaw, and then you would take that flower and apply it to a backer board with that double-sided tape, and then carve it, and that would allow you to get right into the carving of the flower. Yeah, I am tempted to get a chair. Okay, now this is normally where I would turn it around and rotate, but it's stuck to the tabletop, so we're leaving it. Because normally I don't like to come back towards myself, right? But then I wouldn't be able to move, you know. Okay, so now that is going to allow the flower to be revealed, and I'm just going to go back around with the V-chisel just to clean up that mess. Okay, so I'm doing a shortcut here. Normally what I would do is go around and clean up that outer edge. All right, with a vertical cut probably, just go right on the line. So notice I actually left the line visible. All right, I didn't take the line away with the V-chisel. Okay, just doing some final cleanup just because I don't like all that fuzz along the edge. All right, and then, so the technique of defining that, I basically find whatever gouge fits very close to that edge and just make a cut. And you can use the mallet if you want to define that edge, but basically just make a cut like that and just clean that up like that. But again, I'm going to kind of skip over that step so I can actually carve the flower. All right, and then come in there and just clean that up like that. So that is what the edge should look like. It's really, this high definition camera is very cruel. You can see more than what I can see here. Yes, the reality of high definition camera. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take around the outer, the stamen area. Then I'm going to come in here and just lower this part down. And so once I do this, once I get that down, then I can start marking the overlapping petals. This is like serious fast forwarding stuff here. All right, anyway, clean that up. Again, vertical cut, ideally. Vertical cut around there, get it nice and crisp, nice vertical wall. Now I'm gonna take these edges, and what I do when you've got overlapping areas like this, it's a good idea to go and shade in the part that is going under. Just because you can get really messed up with a lot of just different things happening. Okay? Shade in the side that I'm going to take my V-chisel with. And so, there's that. Lost my V-chisel. All right. Okay, so pretty much most of this so far has been using a mallet and chisel, but I want to get into doing a little bit more, doing the slicing cuts. And once you go around here, again, I leave that line visible so that I can actually see that edge. That is really bad. Now I'm going to take number 5, all right? So a slight curve to it. You can see that right there, all right? And I'm going to go and carve this so it looks like it's going underneath. Just carve it down. And then take this one. And so when you're doing shallow relief like this, a lot of it is all about the overlapping illusion, really. That illusion of one petal going under the other. Not a lot of real major shaping, but just where that looks like it's going underneath that. And then after you identify which goes under and over, then you can then shape the individual petals, shape them a little bit more than what we're doing here. Okay, and then that goes under there. And so I'm going to go ahead and do one more little detail with a V-chisel. And you know how sort of petals can sort of ripple together, or anyway, bunch together, and you have this cut. All right, let me just see this, clear that. So right here, just going to take and do some little ripple cuts. And they can go across the whole petal or just a little bit, but random cuts, all pointing towards the center to kind of just make it look like they're bunched up right in the center. All right. And then this is going to be rounded over. Remember I was mentioning the number 314 I use a lot? I actually turn that over a lot and use bevel side down because sometimes it's really hard to carve like that. I just use it and kind of take little facets off. All right, and that is really, really a sad looking carving. There we go. Take it off the backer board and there you go. Thank you. Just don't look too close at it. Let's back the camera up a little bit and do the soft focus. Do the Vaseline on the lens thing that sort of softens the focus. So anyway, are there any questions? Yeah. Oh, I don't like poplar. Poplar is something about poplar that is kind of weirdly spongy, stringy. I don't know what it is, but it's very hard to carve. It actually ends up, you have to have a really crazy sharp tool. If you don't have sharp tools, it'll just crush. Yeah, it can be challenging.
Mary, when you were carving that shell with the ellipse, did you use any kind? And you said you used something to carve away to get the curve on that.
Yes.
Did you use like a power tool on
Angle
that?
grinder. Angle grinder with one of those little spike things.
Like a Kutzel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And I was going to ask you, do you use any type of power carving to get rid of the big waste of the wood at all, or?
There, haven't gone to the chainsaw yet, but that I've used that Kutzel. I think that's the brand that I use. I've used that for doing heavy removal. I also use an automatic carver. Are you familiar with that? Basically, it's a machine that it vibrates back and forth. It's not a spinning one, but it actually vibrates, and that is more for just doing it's just massive bulk carving, volume carving. Oh, actually, that shell, the big shell niche, I use that to remove the majority of the hollows.
I got something like that with my Fordham, I guess, and it does have a pneumatic type of motion to
Yep,
it.
and that's exactly what it is. As soon as you press it against the wood, it starts to activate.
That's right.
I do have a Fordham also, which last time I used it, I got my knuckle on a nice big round bit that, yeah. So I sort of put it away, and I'm like, no, anytime I tend to use machines, I hurt myself. So,
Thank you.
Would you sand any part of that flower?
you know, I wouldn't on walnut. Sorry, I was looking at this one. I'm pretending this doesn't exist. You know what? You could. The thing that I say about sanding is don't rely on it. All right, try to get it to the point where you can get the end results with the tools, and then use sanding if you have to. Maybe if you're trying to blend, like a flat surface, the original flat surface with the carved area. Maybe try blending it, something like that. But no, you won't get kicked out of the carving club by using sanding fiber. But I wanted to mention also, if you're going to be sanding, don't carve afterwards, right? Because you can actually leave really good amount of grit in the wood, and you'll dull your chisels. But I have it around here somewhere. Oh, here we go. Have you heard of Abranet? Mirka Abranet. It's supposedly, and I've used it quite a bit, since I discovered this, I actually sand my carvings a lot more. But it doesn't leave grit, and it lasts probably 10 times the amount that regular sandpaper does. But it's this mesh. It's meant to go on a machine, which has this basically sucking all the dust in as you go. It pulls it through the mesh, which I guess would be great if you're going to be using that for the woodworking also. But I just use this hand sanding, and it's pretty good stuff. You can check it out. Anything else?
I just got one over here.
Okay,
All right.
there's one over here too.
Kind of on the heels. He was asking about pop art. I'm kind of curious about aspen
Aspen. I am not really familiar with aspen,
because
actually.
it falls right in that group between basswood and butternut.
Okay.
And I'm starting on it myself right now with a project I'm trying to get done for Christmas. But it's so far it seems to carve very nicely.
Okay. That's. I guess maybe if I was out in Colorado or something like that, I know they have a lot of this. Yeah, I'm really not familiar with it. I haven't had an opportunity to carve it.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. You had a question?
Yeah, you obviously have an artistic eye. Have you always had that?
I think so, from a pretty young age. But a lot of people ask me, "Oh, do you have to know how to draw to carve?" And basically, the answer is no, you don't. It helps. It helps, especially when you've created a curved surface and you're having to redraw your design on that curved surface. So that certainly helps. But you can get templates, you can get all sorts of things. You can go onto Google Images and get everything that you can possibly imagine. And now with AI, you can get things you didn't even imagine. But yeah, it does help. It does help, yeah. Okay, all right, thank you.